This idea is part of the poem Recycling by Nate Marshall, published in 2015, which I chose to read to you all today. Provided by Poetry Foundation, a well-known poetry site, Recycling describes what home was like for a first-year college student and how he made a new life for himself at college. Each of us in here are college students. Some of us are not first years, but most of us are. So this can all apply to us. Marshall, the author, uses this poem to show a state of growth and learning that can come in college. So without further ado, Recycling by Nate Marshall. It's your first year of college. You should be missing home by now, but mostly you don't. You read the Chicago newspapers and call family on Sundays. You pick up going to church at a place adjacent to the projects. You're not from the projects, and the ones in Chicago seem worse, but there's comfort in being around plain-spoken folk. The church folk feed you and also cook you food. You take African American studies classes and sleep through Spanish and write poems at night. You read the newspaper. You consider pledging a fraternity. You go to parties to watch people. You don't miss home. You call your ex-girl a lot. You imagine her face across the phone line. You stare at the scar on her chin. It is shiny and smooth. You read the newspaper. You text new girls mostly. You invite them to play cards or bet clothes or take them to dinner on your birthday so you don't have to spend it alone. Or you share their extra long twin beds, or you just text them. It's your first year of college. Your nephew is tiny, and your niece is still young enough to be happy. And the world is new, and you are not going home for Thanksgiving. You are in the South at a new friend's house. You go to church with his family, and to his old high school's basketball game, and to his mom's, and to his grandma's house. You did not make your team past 9th grade, and you never went to malls much. Your grandmother passed away 2 years now. You read the newspaper. His family are nice people. You do not miss home. You go back to school. You stop talking to your ex-girl. She is a new guy. You do not miss home. You write poems. You read the newspapers. There are still more kids dying. It's your first year of college. You should be missing, but you're still here. You write papers about black people and voting and violence and families. And that is the same paper. You do not read the newspapers. You have finals to finish. You go to church on Sunday with your new friend, and you talk to new girls and consider pledging. You have heard that fraternities will haze you, and you've heard about beating, but you are not from the projects and you are not in Chicago. You stop reading the newspaper. You decide to kiss a girl and mean it. You decide to pledge a fraternity. You should have more information about the newspaper and the girl and the fraternity. You should call home more, but you don't read the newspaper or call. You are not from the projects or Chicago. You do not miss home, or your ex-girl, or your newspaper. There are still more kids dying. You convince your new friend to pledge the fraternity. He worries about the hazing, the beatings. You tell him, this is an opportunity. Don't miss it. Originally I wanted to do a love poem because those are the poems that I enjoy reading and speaking. But this one I thought that applied to all of us because we're college students and it was a different perspective. That it took me a while to read this and understand what he was saying, and I'm sure I got the interpretation wrong, but that was what I got out of it. So,
okay, all right. Audience, if you could, give Michaela some feedback, teammates, and whoever else.
I really like your speaking voice. It makes me want to keep listening to you talk.
I think that was a really good voice poem.
And I like how you introduced it. I immediately understood what all the stuff. It was a good choice of poem. I thought your eye contact was pretty good considering you had to read word for word.
Okay, Michaela.
I really liked it. I thought your introduction was really good too. It was thorough. I think you kind of just put us right there. And again, being thoughtful about the piece that you're reading and really having it connect with the audience, I think it reinforces that idea of sort of all in the same boat, right? And you stated that explicitly, which is not a bad thing to do, right? Sometimes things kind of go in one ear and out the other. So sort of that intentionality to call attention to it and allow us to hear that allows your audience to see why we should pay attention, why we should care. So I think that you did quite nicely. I also really appreciated the very intentional transition that you had between finishing up your introduction and moving on into your piece. If there's anything I would have said is have changed that vocal tone just a little bit from the introduction into those first sentences in the reading.
Okay.
It almost sounded exactly the same, and so he's kind of a little different. He's kind of a guy.
Yeah.
And not to say you have to talk like a guy or mimic that, but if you had a really minor shift in tone to make it just a little bit deeper, and
Okay.
I'm not saying like try to talk like this, right?
Yeah.
But just have it be just a little bit different from yours, really then just punctuates it. Does that make sense?
Yes, that does.
Okay, all right. So that would be one thing that I would suggest. And I thought that throughout the poem, I thought you did a nice job of capturing some of the essence of what he was talking about in terms of those transitions and sort of that recycling of going back and kind of going through that whole list of things, right? The girlfriend and then the not girlfriend, and just really sort of finding your place. I thought you did a nice job of capturing and emphasizing certain pieces of that quite nicely. I noticed you made efforts again to make eye contact with us. It's not easy. It's not easy to look away. But I thought you did a nice job of being poised and coming back to us. I thought you looked more relaxed this time.
I was. Very relaxed.
I think that we had talked about that last time,
Yeah.
and I think that it definitely showed as you were speaking. It felt like we could relax into the piece with you.
Okay.
And so, sometimes we don't tend to intentionally give off that we're nervous, but it can happen, and so then we kind of get nervous. It's like, oh no, what's going on, right?
Yeah.
So sort of that, unintended inference that happens with that. So with some of the body language issues, but I thought you were more poised. I think that you did a pretty good job with making eye contact and staying with us. Nice rate of speaking. I don't think maybe at times we could have slowed down just a little bit,
Okay.
just to sort of reinforce that redundance, that repetitiveness that
Okay.
you had sort of had in the poem. Other than that, nice job.
Thank you.
Thank you.